Welcome, everyone, and roll call. I'll just go down the list here. Laura Walters.
Present.
Myself, John Zimmerman, I'm here. John Eric is excused. Norman?
Here.
Okay. Britt is also excused. She's in Cordova. Kim? I don't see Kim in the room yet, so we'll wait on her. Tamalidis?
Is here.
Present.
Young Kim? I see a wave from Young Kim online, so welcome, Young. And Amanda Thompson is also not here just yet. So seeing as how the vice chair and our secretary are missing, do we have someone who's willing to take some notes to create minutes from the meeting? What that entails is just writing down any kind of motion that we have and the tally of the vote.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you don't have to really take too many notes. So
I can do that for you.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that, Marie. All right, so Marie will be our stand-in secretary. If Amanda does come, then you can discuss passing the torch if you'd like to.
I just, have to claim I'm not good at multitasking, so good thing we're just doing it because I can't talk and listen and take
Okay.
notes.
And we'll go slow too. If there's a motion, we'll make sure.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
clear
just good.
And everything's set before we do any
And
votes.
just a vote. Thank you.
So slow me down if I'm going too fast.
All right, thanks.
Okay, all right, the roll call is complete. On to finalizing and approving the agenda. If you didn't see the agenda come out with the email, check back on that email and the link should give you the current agenda in its final form here for us to approve. And just as a note, the only thing that got added between when it first got sent out and now is item A under 9 for announcements and next meeting. Item A is a disclosure of economic interest form, which also should be attached to an email. There's Amanda.
There's Amanda, yes.
603, yay.
Hello, Amanda.
Hello. Sorry about that.
No worries. Glad you're here.
All right, welcome, Amanda. We're just discussing on the agenda. If you use the link on the email, it should give you the most current form. And the only change from when it was first sent out is the addition of the disclosure of economic interests form that was attached to a message that came out from
Ornella.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it's a two-sided form that we all need to make sure that we get filled out before we do any scoring on the applications. We can take a minute and do that here for those of us present, for Norman and myself, and then those who are joining us via Teams can complete that form and send it back into Ornella. Do you want to collect those? Okay, so those will go to Ornella, just reply to that same message. Other than that, the agenda should be as it was before. So we can entertain a motion to approve the agenda or any kind of amendments after we do that. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Norman.
Okay. Norman has moved to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay,
Who is that, Laura?
that was Laura.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
I guess, let's see, just on the agenda, just as we disclose our economic interest forms, I would be interested in for the arts grants applications, just to have that under new business, that we also address that with the applicants, the pool of applicants, if there's any kind of, just as we see that pool, since it's a new kind of grant cycle, that same kind of disclosure of economic interest, we just apply that to also the possible grantees as we look at the merit of their work. Maybe my request will just come more as we go to that new business item.
Mhm.
Okay. Did you want to make an amendment or do you feel like that can be covered under new business A?
I feel like it can be covered under a new business day, so.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Any other discussion? All right, well, let's put it to a vote. It has to be a roll call vote. And just to be clear, Marie was taking notes, Amanda, since we started just a couple minutes before. Do you want to pass the torch and take notes as secretary while you're here on Teams, or do you want her to continue for now?
Let's see. I'm trying to think how to do this here. I should be able to, let me just pull up the minutes. And I do apologize, I didn't have those for review. That's very not according to procedure. So I will send those out shortly by tomorrow, the past minutes and then these minutes here. So just give me 2 minutes and I can get the new one started. So I'll let you know. Maybe just keep on taking minutes until I get
Okay.
this
You're
other
good.
one.
So good.
Marie's good with that. Okay. So the motion on the table is to approve the agenda as it stands. There's no amendments on it. So a yay approves it or a nay does not. And we have to go roll call vote. So I can call.
Okay.
I'm just going to go straight down the list this time and then we'll vary the order next time. Laura.
Yes.
And I am a yes, although I should vote last. John Eric is gone. Norman?
Yes.
Okay. And Britt is gone. Kim is not here yet. And Tamalides?
Yes.
Young Kim? I think I saw a yes. Is
Did you
that
say yes? Yeah, we can't hear you, Young.
a thumbs up? Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
Excellent. And Amanda?
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously with 6 voting yes. All right, on to public comment. And I put Amanda on there too, since typically the secretary runs the clock if there's anyone. I don't see anyone on Teams and there's no one here present. So we'll keep moving. If everyone's okay, if someone does show up, we could give them time at the end of the meeting.
Mhm.
So that works for everyone. Okay, excellent. All right, so next would be to approve minutes. As we just heard, those aren't quite finished yet. That's fine with me moving it to the next meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. See nods and agreement for those that I can see here. Let's keep moving then. So unfinished business, commission bylaws. Did everyone get a chance to review those? They were attached to the email that went out. They're very basic. It's simply just a backbone of what bylaws need to contain and really no extra anything else. So it's essentially a blank canvas for us to build on to create bylaws that meet the needs of our commission as we discover those. And to my knowledge, previous commission's bylaws are lost in time. We don't have a most recent one. So it's incumbent upon us to adopt bylaws that work for us. And these are an idea, but by no means what we need to adopt. So we can put those out there for discussion. If anyone wants to move to do a preliminary vote, the way that it works is we would make a preliminary vote at this meeting. We'd have an entire month to review them, and then we do a final vote at a subsequent meeting next month. Or that one is only a few weeks away. We might even wait until June just to give a full 30 days is usually kind of the standard way of doing that. So we could either do it in May in a couple of weeks, or if that's not enough, we can put it in June. But if anybody wants to move to approve those as a starting point, that can get our discussion going.
I approve them. I say we just grow from it.
Okay. We have a motion to adopt the bylaws from Norman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Hey, we can hear you. Yay.
Too funny.
And
All right.
was that Young Kim? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, so second.
All right. Is there discussion on the bylaws as they stand? Amanda?
So I really appreciate you, John, putting in the Muni code for this. So I'll put together the excerpts of that as we go. I think that's really important for us to understand as we're kind of making this document. You know, what in the statute was this advisory intended to do or to advise on? So I just appreciate that. And if that sounds good to put together those documents as we review, I'll go ahead and do that.
For the documents you're referencing, can you be more specific? I'm not clear on that.
So the municipal code where it talks about the arts advisory.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay, and that should be included in those bylaws. It's spelled out letter for letter at the beginning.
Okay, So this is the actual letter by letter one of it. Okay.
Correct. As far as it stands, last I looked, I don't think it's changed by
Nope.
any of my knowledge. So, well, and welcome.
I'm I'm just sliding in here. I'm Gideon Geralt, the curator of public art at the community.
Terrific. Welcome, Gideon. Glad to have you here.
Marisa,
Oh, hi, Brady.
Ornella, I was just telling Ornella, do you know we have a curator for public art? He knows everything about the 1% for art.
Excellent.
Hello.
And that's why I
Thank you,
bring
Ella.
that. Yeah. And that's why I bring up
Wonderful.
the Muni Code, because I recall that there is a section where arts advisory is mentioned in relation to the 1% for art program. That this hasn't been visited in the past, or in the past few commissions, it sounds like, but it would just be interesting to circle wagons around that, or just, start that discussion again.
Excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Was there something you guys wanted to discuss, or is that just kind of the general?
We could talk about adding something to our agenda, which would be wonderful to hear. Or we could also give you a moment for public comment,
Yeah.
which would be great. Right now, we're talking about adopting bylaws because we don't have current commission bylaws, and we have a very skeleton frame of what that looks like that references the Muni Code that talks about us interfacing with Urban Design Commission, and there's a couple other things in there. So
There's so if I can for a moment.
I'm okay with that. If everybody else in the commission is okay, I can give the floor to Gideon for a moment to discuss that. Does that
Yeah.
work for everyone?
Should we do the question first and then?
Sure. I mean, he's probably going to give us some information that relates to that, but we are more specifically on a topic of bylaws, so maybe that is procedurally correct, and then we can go back to public comment if that
Yeah.
works. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So let's vote on this to adopt the bylaws preliminarily. It's the first vote, and then we have time to amend and do a final adoption at a future meeting. So it's not written in stone at this point. It's just that we want to move forward with addressing these bylaws. Are we ready for a vote? Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me go through here. I'll mix up the order a little bit. I'll just go backwards, which might make it easy. So Amanda?
Yes.
Okay. Young Kim?
Yes.
Okay.
Annette.
Didn't hear you, but I see you.
Yes.
All right, Tamaulipas?
Yes.
Okay. Kim's out, Britt's out. Norman?
Yes.
Okay. John Eric is out. Laura?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, so it's a unanimous consent, 6 votes in favor for adopting the bylaws. Okay, let's circle back to public comment. I see a lot of nods saying that that's okay, so we'll put public comment in here too, and give Gideon a moment to speak to how we interface with 1% in the arts and public arts in general. So thank you for coming.
Yeah.
We've talked about you a lot over the last year and a half or 2 years. It's nice that you're finally here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to interface more. So if you guys would like to hear more, have more connection, and Marie, if you want to pass my email along, if there's any additional engagement you'd like to have, I'd be happy to contribute more, whether in person or online. I guess just to start with those, since you guys are discussing bylaws, I'm not as thoroughly familiar as I'm sure you guys are, but historically I am aware that there was an in-depth development of both bylaws and process. Particularly, I know that there was quite a bit of development to do with the process of reviewing grants and all that entails. So again, I'm not on the commission, but I know just firsthand experience with those that were developing those materials. So if you'd like, and if those materials are not presently available to you, I can ask around and see if I can locate what was developed.
That'd be very helpful, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. It was Zena Marari was the previous chair that I was thinking of in particular. There were some retreats to Girdwood to develop additional materials. So I'll see what I can dig up and pass along to you guys on that front. Regarding the municipal code, this language that I'm seeing here on your agenda is the only information or code language that I'm familiar with is AMC, what was it? 460150, the Arts Advisory Commission. I don't believe or that I'm not familiar with anything specific to crossing over between the public art program and the Arts Advisory Commission. The public art program, I believe, falls into the category of here in section A1, where it's the commission shall advise the mayor and assembly concerning all matters pertaining to municipal involvement in the arts and the community, except those programs officially under the purview of other advisory bodies, and it's that other advisory bodies. Excuse me, other advisory bodies. The public art program has the oversight from the public art committee, and so it's that public art committee that is written into the municipal code. And I'm wondering if maybe that's where the connection may have been, or that communication or thinking that the public art committee might have been the public art advisory commission. They're two separate bodies. Is just I guess to stop and ask, is that what the understanding was, or am I perhaps missing something? Or
That sounds correct to me.
okay, all right, yeah. So that's what my understanding of the situation is, or in terms of the advisory body. So the public art program has a public art committee who I consult with on a number of factors, and actually I've got I need to convene that body here in the near future for a few different reviews. However, there is the point at which the Arts Advisory Commission does overlap with the public art program is this, I'll go ahead and pass these around, is the notices. So there's a number of notices of selection. Yeah, sure. Thank you. There's a number of notices of selection that I send out when an artwork is selected by the art selection juries, and the Arts Advisory Commission is one of those. So I sent that out recently to directed to Marie and the chair, because I'm not familiar with the current chair. Is that
John, yeah.
All right, John. So yeah, I'm happy to update my materials there. So whenever there's an artwork selection, I'll send that out to a number of people, the Art Advisory Commission chair being one of them, and it's easy just to pass it through the municipal staff into the program, and they get it out to you. So what you're seeing here currently, and I'm hopefully those online were passed a digital PDF. I'm happy to forward that as well, but I just brought the printed copies with me. Is the selection of Rose Hendrickson, and this is for location 1 at the Port Administration Building. So the port has been doing lots of construction, so I'm sure you guys are all aware. But they built a brand new administration building. For that administration building, 1% of the funds were allocated to public art. And so there's 2 locations selected by the jury for that. The second location has already been completed. That I painted a mural, actually 2 different murals. It's the same piece for arts purpose. It's one piece, which is 2 different murals, different locations on the exterior of the facade. Really vibrant and bright, and it really pops out from the rest of the surrounding environment. And this this first location has now been awarded to Rose Hendrickson. She's a local artist based out of Palmer, and she's going to be doing a art installation for the railing of the observation deck. So as you walk out to the observation deck, you'll have a much more beautiful, detailed, ornate artwork. And as well as from the exterior, a less detailed view because it's up on the 3rd floor. Pay attention to the perspective. Provide a great deal of detail if you're viewing it from the ground level, 3rd floor. Yeah, it was a really great proposal, a really great concept. At this point, just going through the steps of the approvals, as I said, there's notifications of the selection as one step in that, and then the other one that I'm going through now is to be the maintenance and safety reviews. I already heard back from actually a member of the public art committee who's actually an architect, and pointed out the risk of galvanic corrosion between the aluminum and the railing. The railing itself is actually galvanized, and so it's fine, and it didn't occur to me. Yes, really appreciate having his attention on it, because it's It's not that the galvanized railing is fine or an issue. However, when you drill
It's
through it,
in,
penetrate the galvanization.
came in today
And
at
it's that
6:14.
small layer. So anyway, that fastener itself has to have a, could be stainless steel, and it's ideal to actually have both a rubber and or plastic gasket on there as well. So it's a good call, good catch. So that's exactly the kind of detail we're looking for, that maintenance and safety
should be
review
two in
is the next sketch, but fortunately we got it on that, so I'll make sure that we include that. Anyway, so that's the selection here. The total is what,
920.
36,920. The award was originally gonna be 32,500. However, there's some contingency funds that are remaining. And because just as you guys are probably also aware, the cost of materials are
Oh,
going
rolling up.
exponentially as we speak. So we rolled the extra contingency funds into that commission. So,
Mhm.
is there any thoughts or comments or?
I want to say apologies for that aside. I was trying to see if I had this by email.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Is that, were you able to find it?
No, but
No, yeah, sorry.
they'll have it later.
And actually, that's a great point for those online. Has everybody, been forwarded the PDF? You guys have it?
Oh, yeah. Did you send that to me by email?
I did.
Oh, okay, I'll look for it.
I didn't know that the chair, so I.
Yeah,
It's
got it.
brand new. It's just as of the last meeting.
Like,
Okay,
yeah.
I convened after almost a year off. and They
Yeah.
put me in the hot seat.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks. No, happy to be able to lead it.
I don't know.
Oh,
if
here we go.
there's- If there, where'd you get that camera?
Oh, I found it.
Pasted the top of it. You can always stand up and put it in.
Yeah, it's 425, yeah.
Found the thread, but I'm looking for the.
I'll forward it, might be easier to. Well, Gideon, while we're looking, are you, through the chair, can you talk about just briefly of like the 1%, like it's from CIP, which I can't think, and then 1% is required for art, and then you have a jury for all of the art, just briefly on that. We have new commissioners and maybe the older ones too
Yeah,
would
absolutely.
benefit from that.
Have a quick background.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's say, real quick on here for you, and I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Or no.
Ella? So down at the bottom of this, I have a link to the Dropbox.
All the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
And okay, if it's not actually a link, you can copy and paste that, but that will take you to the page and then you can find the, I think it's revised proposals for the mockups.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, just general background on public art program and what that entails, the process and everything. So it's 1% for art. That's the that everything is derived from. So whenever there's municipal construction and the construction cost exceeds 250,000, that will essentially kick off a review. There's more, that's really the kind of like the first step. I like to think of it as sweeping things off the table that don't meet the requirement in terms of that review. And so 250 projects that exceed 250,000 is one of the first essentially passes. Beyond that, if it's the construction, I mean, there's a number of criteria. I have to pull up AMC 7.40 is the code to go through all the details. And I guess I'm more than happy to go through greater detail if there's interest in that at another time. But essentially, I go through this checklist to see whether or not the 1% is appropriate for this project or the respective project qualifies for contribution to the public art. After a determination that it does, I work with the project manager for that construction project to allocate the funds. And then we set up a art selection jury. The jury by code is no less than 7 members. Those members are determined to be the project designer. Those, that by contract, they have an architect or engineer designer on the project. So that person is allocated a seat on the art selection jury. There's the facility representative. So whichever facility is doing construction, they have a representative on the art selection jury. There are 2 municipal representatives, and I is just broadly speaking municipality. I do my best to ensure that there's no overlap. There's already a facility representative, but depending on what facility is doing the construction. There's a number of other departments within the municipality that would have really great overlap, so we can look for there.
No, that's okay. I think, I just wonder, Chair, if with the time that we have for the meeting tonight, and maybe if we have for Gideon a time frame, just to give him an idea. This is all great information, but I'm just wondering, since it wasn't on the agenda and we have the things below, just as you see, Chair, what we should, how much time we should have for this.
Yes, well noted, point taken. And if everyone's okay, can we give them another maybe 3 minutes here? If that's, I know that's not much time. This is such great information.
No,
We love
that's-
every bit of it, but we want to make sure to stay on time. And
It's an excellent point. Thank you, Amanda, for that. And it all, every time I give this talk, it's like you kind of need to give me a clock so that I can go from 5 minutes to an hour and a half or more.
yeah, we're all arts lovers too, so thank you for this.
Great. Yeah, and then so on that note, if there's interest, I do have a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation that I'm happy to give, which illustrates all the points and pulls out all the details. So yeah,
That'd be
happy to
wonderful.
provide that at another time, just.
Yeah.
If we could do that at a future meeting, that would be really.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let me know and happy to provide that presentation. So I guess the nutshell here. So an art selection jury, minimum of 7 members, municipal members. We also have 3 community members. Of those 3 community members, there's an artist. And always looking part of the curatorial umbrella. I'm looking to get overlap of all the project criteria to get a good jury in place for that. The jury is really responsible for all the components in deciding what the art is going to be, where it'll, how it's going to be installed, what the budget's going to be. As per this, the current notice of selection, there's one funding pot essentially, right? The total funds being, what was it, 70-some thousand. But the jury decided to allocate it to 2 locations, right? So it was the jury that decided, well, we want to split this into 2 locations and how we want to divide up that budget and what kind of art we want for both of those locations. In addition to the jury that's making those decisions, there's I myself and the project manager for the construction project are non-voting members. So the project manager really kind of, in addition to the architect, provide a lot of details and insight to the project itself. And I really guide through the process, the art selection. And yeah, I can go off into a lot of weeds after that as to like what kind of art is suitable to the facility and all the contract mechanisms and purchasing and procurement. But I'll leave it to that at that for now. And unless there's any other questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long meeting for that.
Yeah, well, I mean.
I know,
With that,
Oh, I
thank
think-
you, or I'm sorry, with that presentation, I can put it down into about 15-20 minutes. It's the shortest I've got it, and I've actually had much longer.
Okay.
Nice.
Amanda, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I would love even like a lunch and learn or something like that. That'd be fabulous. So this is really great to hear. Just the 2 follow-up questions I have is that I saw that the Muni Code was updated, I believe, in October 2024. So I would be interested in any research, what was changed in that code, in that arts, just when I looked it up on the site and it said the last revision. I would be interested in what it was before that revision. And then I don't recall getting information on the public arts the past couple years or since I've been on the commission. I was just wondering if you could speak quickly to that, whether or not awards given out. And so that's why nothing got sent out, or?
Start with the first one there was the code revision. I think you're referring to Title VII code revisions, just broadly speaking. To my knowledge, 7.40 for arts, for funding for public art wasn't revised. To my knowledge, I was looking on there recently. Are you seeing something else, or?
Yeah, it just said on the specific code page that there was a revision. So I don't know if that was for the whole, right, the whole Muni Code, that the whole code updated then, or if it was just that section.
You know which section you were looking at?
I believe it was the 7.0. I'd have to go back and see.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 4.6. Yeah, sorry. And the 7.4.
You're looking at 7.40.
So the first one with the arts advisory, so that one, the 4.60.
150.
Yeah, let me just double check. And it will take some time, but just as a start for a conversation. So I would just be, if those are getting updated, I would be interested in that notice from the assembly or however we get notified. So it says all items. It was 4.60 regarding the Arts Advisory Commission. So which one was this one? Let's see. So that was, yeah. You know how it goes, like all the the assembly, little lines and what's going on when. So,
If you want to take a moment and look up the reference for us to discuss later, we can keep going because we're already past the
Yeah,
3 extra minutes.
so I can give you a little update of what I'm familiar with there. So there's always code changes that are happening. Recently, Title VII, there was a major Title VII overhaul, largely to do with that's purchasing, largely. It's why like public art fits in there in terms of purchasing processes. And I'm actually, I think it's tomorrow morning or afternoon, it's a Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it's tomorrow, we have a web meeting to discuss the major overhauls. And those are largely to do with purchasing processes. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but in the last couple of years, there were in purchasing thresholds, there were changes. So there's additional changes that have happened. So for those of us that deal with purchasing and procurement, there are federal legal requirements that you have to adhere to, and of course, state and local. So those are predominantly the changes that we're focused on. I don't believe the public art had changed, and I can't say that I'm specifically familiar as to whether or not the Arts Advisory Commission language had been changed. I wouldn't think that there would be need for that, but if there was, I'd be, I'll see what I can find out as well and dig into that.
We just have a cross-reference under our code that references works of art in public facilities in chapter 7.40. So that's, as far as I know, that's our only code reference that in any way kind of
When you say
reds the fingers and shakes hands.
there's a cross-reference from Arts Advisory Commission, is that?
Yeah. It has 4.60.150 Arts Advisory Commission, all of our stuff that's at the top of our agenda here, if you have one of those. All the references for all the extensions of it, and then a cross-reference that mentions funds for works of public art. 7.40. It's not so much a direct connection, but it is a connection. That's just qualifications in terms. So 3-year terms for
7.4. Yeah, that's. I wonder if perhaps maybe in the past, and if this is something that's a remnant. So what I was gonna direct you to, in addition for looking things up, to look at these materials over here. I think it's more, or just below that. Compare previous version. Is it this one?
this one.
Yeah, compare versions. So in there, and that's a great tool for everybody online. So if you have Unicode pulled up under this section of the code where it's 4605, whatever it is, the major black folded text. You're going to see little icons that have, the mail, this and linking and all that. The far right one has 2 page icons.
Excellent.
That's where you can find more information and link, see previous versions. So Amanda, to your question about what the previous versions or recent updates, you can compare and contrast, updates to previous code versions, and from there, I think you should be able to actually see when the most recent update was.
Highlighted strike throughs, it gives dates too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
On there.
Yeah, so that should help you with a little bit of digging.
Excellent.
thank
Good, very
you.
helpful.
Yeah.
Anything else quickly before we move on? I do want to be mindful of everyone's time here and keep our meeting going. Okay, thank you, Gideon.
Yeah.
That's a lot of great information. I think that done for all of us. So,
Like a motor mouth trying to fit everything in, so.
yeah, excellent.
Hopefully it's not too much.
Well, thank you for all you do to support art too. It's huge in our community, and it's a beautiful display wherever your work touches our community. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, enjoy it.
Okay, thanks again. Moving on for new business, I'd like to turn the floor over to Ornella to discuss the current grant cycle, the applications we've received, and draw your attention to that and several other matters that the commission has historically discussed, which may be different with the current composite of membership, but that we should also have in mind as we move forward. So with that, Ornella.
Yeah, happy to. As you all know, maybe if you realized I love a presentation, so I brought some materials for us to look at. And again, this was created quite recently, and I'm happy to share this with you all after the meeting as well. So speaking on the broader term of timeline, just so far, the applications closed April 14th, and I sent all the received applications for both the general applications as well as the Beyond the Beige applications to you all on April 16th. So hoping you all had a chance to either just click through or make sure you have access at the very least so I can troubleshoot from there. So that was about, 12 days or so ago. But of course, there was this meeting on the calendar to really iron out criterias. I'm going to touch on the suggested ones we built into the criteria worksheet. But again, as John has pointed out previously, as Gideon just pointed out, there's a lot of history around this commission just already doing that kind of work. So we want to leave room for conversation as you all see fit for what you all as this year's commissioners feel is, the best way to review the 30 applications that came in for the general applications and then the 12 Beyond the Beige applications that came in. So yes, everyone has access to those materials. Just want to double check.
Yeah.
Amanda, you said you don't?
No, it's wanting me to sign into a Microsoft Office account.
Okay, I am happy to double check. If you wouldn't mind maybe emailing me with your email just so I can double check that it's the right one.
Can I speak to that? So I want you to sign in, just use the email that you received the message at. So Little Blue Art, I believe is yours, Amanda. So you type that in for the exchange and then it will send like a 6-digit code or 7-digit code to your email to verify that you are the one who holds the email account, and then it'll let you in.
Okay.
Seems strange, but that it worked for me, so.
That's right, because IT specifically created one for your set of emails, so you should have access, but thank you so much for doing that. But right, so in terms of the timeline, we have this meeting date where hopefully you all will finalize the criteria, and then you have a tentative May 13th meeting date that I believe is maybe on the agenda to confirm, where our goal would be to have them finalized by then. So the reason for this timeline being the next kind of 2 weeks or so is that the grants, if they are to be dispersed in June, helps applicants get as much time as they can to spend the awards by 2025, which is a requirement for the general applications. And we do, want to take note of that's, I believe, 9 business days. Let me see if I can still do math. Yeah, 10 business days. So we took some time as individuals who have just reviewed 92 community grant applications, like what are some recommendations for making that manageable within that time frame, or obviously to create room for conversation if that isn't, if however you all see fit. But we, in reviewing the MCGs, we set a maximum per application review time, a first pass based on, admissions review data and data from other institutions. So saying maximum 5 minutes for applications, spread that's about 3.5 hours for the 42 applications. Some are quite short. I don't know if you all had a chance to click through, but some provided like a sentence spur. So you really won't even get anywhere near the 5 minutes. But let's say you do spend 5 minutes per, that would be about an hour a day over the course of 4 days, or 30 minutes a day over the course of 7 days. So we just wanted to say, like, of course, the timeline looks like what the timeline looks like, but it feels doable, manageable within the time. This is our suggested approach. Again, everything is up for discussion, change adjustments as you all know your schedules better than we do.
Can I add one quick extra note too? Going through a couple of cycles of this too, it really does help to skim through everything once before, so you have a context for how everything compares with other applicants. So the first pass through can be a very quick pass, just to kind of have an idea of what's there. So your scoring is consistent throughout. That way you don't have to dig in on every single one of them twice to have an accurate score. So just for what it's worth.
Yeah, honestly, the 5 minutes max, that's you really digging in. So you could have 2 minutes per and even less, just tell yourself, look through, find key details, jot down discussion notes. You will inevitably have to revisit these as a larger group anyways, when you do meet. So it might be good not to be too set on your own set of recommendations. Other kind of things that we just wanted to review, I know I sent it in the email, but the priorities that we have for both grant types. Really this year, a big focus is this idea of how is the public going to interact with these programs, with this art? How accessible is it? So the idea of accessibility, excuse me. For general art grants, really, general goals of promoting creative expression, foster local talent, produce exciting local events that are accessible and will impact the community. With priorities being, actually, I don't want to reread these because obviously they were in that email, but I wanted to tie this idea of the priorities with this document that we found online as to how previous iterations of this group has made sense of that and written it out in terms of guidelines. So very quickly, these were also in the materials that we sent via email, the suggested criteria, perhaps thinking along the lines of how clear is the proposal, how feasible, how impactful, who's being reached, is it accessible, or is it only for the people who pay a fee to have access to this institution, and then novelty, some of these, but these words don't come from nowhere. We are connecting it to, apologies, I'm trying to click through this. It's too small, so I'm trying to get out of the presentation. We would like to connect to this to what's the 2012 Arts Advisory Commission kind of wrote out application guidelines for the public, as well as just provided information on, what they consider to be eligibility for these grants, limitations, as well as how they're going to be doing, the review process. So I'm going to take a second for us to look through this because it ties into those suggested criteria for review for this year. In general, I know, John, you had asked over email, like what organizations qualify as being able to apply for this? Is it only arts and culture organizations, or can it be a political organization that's saying we have this really nifty art event that we'd like to put on, right? Based on code, there's nothing that really, kind of removes any specific organizations, and as well, it's not something that was written into the application. However, the eligibility here that was written out by previous members is for us. Only community arts organizations within the municipality of Anchorage are eligible for funding. So there's this sense of anything within the MOA, and as long as they're producing art events, project, and services within the MOA. So you all can interpret that as you will, again, with code as your biggest constraint backer to go forth from. Some of the other things that they said as, recommended not for funding is organizations incorporated for less than 1 year, food or entertainment expenses other than per diem for travelers to Anchorage, labor or material costs for renovation, remodeling, restoration, purchase of equipment, deficits of completed projects. So again, you all have kind of room as commissioners for how you want to conceptualize all of this, as we've seen in previous years in the documents that were shared. Other things that they incorporated that I wanted to call out on. Yes, review guidelines. So Amanda, I will get you in 1 second. I'll just speak to the review guidelines a little bit because that ties into those categories. So they have, quality of project, demonstrated ability to successfully manage arts program, which for us ties into this concept of both, clarity and then feasibility. Sorry to jump back and forth. Evidence of community need. Here it's again, maybe for us, it's a little bit more of evidence of access to community and how this program or event will actually impact those that it intends to, or the public, I guess is what it should be. Financial support of projects by non-municipal sources. I know you mentioned this a little bit as well in email, like if they're getting separate funding, if they're the Anchorage School District, if they're, like an organization that's already has other streams of revenues, that might be something that you all at least take note of or have as points of discussion before choosing to direct more funds towards them. But again, we're not going to say none of these organizations, it's just for you all to consider. Number of audience and participants. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Like really, if this is going to be for an organization that's kind of closed doors in some way, maybe they charge a fee for the event and then they're asking for additional money to buy food. What does it mean for us to support them when we could be supporting an event or program that will be truly open to anybody within the community? So just some thoughts for you all. And then again, this is kind of like what previous years have taken from code to write out. So going to send this document, the link to this document out to everybody so you all have it. Actually, we'll put it in the chat right now. But I'll pause here. Amanda, I saw your question. What?
Yes, yeah, and I love how, you're helping us see really the longstandingness of this, and going back to that 2012 document. I was just curious about your inclusion of our most recent advisory commission's work on these guidelines and criteria.
Can I speak to that for just a second? Because that's exactly what I was going to mention too. I just sent you a screenshot of what we used for scoring criteria last year. It's very basic, partly because the application information we've received, at least in my time on the commission for the last 2 cycles, has not necessarily given us all the detail we need to come up with a score. So we simplified things a little bit and we came up with 2 main criteria. One was vision, which we detailed in 3 different ways, and the other was value, which we detailed in 3 different ways. So for the vision part, we said the 3 parts were programmatic detail, so an understanding of what we're working with based on the application. 2 was innovation, something that was going to bring something new to the area of arts. And then 3, cultural relevance. And those 3 subcategories were held in equal comparison and scored on a 0 to 5 scale, which 0 is, it's outlined on the top there. 0 is doesn't produce or teach any arts in Anchorage. 1 would be minimal, 2 limited, 3 moderate, 4 high, and 5 exceptional. And so there's a total of 15 points for each side, being 30 as the maximum score for all 3. And then on the value side would be production or performance, which could also, production allows for things like a static art display. It doesn't necessarily have to be performance art, even though that has historically been a focus for the Arts Commission. Whereas there's a lot of static art presentations that are other organizations. So not that we don't want to do that, but just, there's other avenues for that. And then B being training, teaching, and mentoring. So how are we raising up the next generation of artists of all different varieties? And then C, to your point about audience reach and participation, how apt is the community to participate in what's going on? And again, same rubric 0 through 5 to try and come up with an idea. It's really basic, but it's partly because we have such a wide range of information that comes in with these applicants because we haven't really narrowed it down to a specific criteria that we're looking for. And we don't necessarily let them know from the outset what our scoring is. So we thought we'd be very general. But this is what we came up with as a commission last year. And I can say I think it worked better than the previous year, which had some really specific things that didn't always apply to every organization, which might affect the score one way or another. So if this fits, that could be a way to, a springboard to at least work toward what did 2012 do? What are we doing? And how can we have the best path forward using the best of both?
Totally agree. I mean,
Mhm.
the nice thing too is this commission has a good amount of members that were there previously that can guide the group through. So
Mhm.
rather than introduce a brand new one for everyone to learn, and especially if this worked really well, we're like Maria,
Yeah, oh.
For us.
totally.
And I don't know that we
Yeah,
achieved
my
perfection
question-
either. Full disclaimer.
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
my question is just why it wasn't brought up as a document in this research too.
I'm not sure all of our information from the previous year has been codified in any kind of resource that's available to our municipal staff. And so that's kind of on me and us as previous commissioners to communicate all this, because I don't even know what they don't know, and they don't have any idea what we did, because I don't think it's written down anywhere. So we're a work in progress trying to figure out how to move forward with this. So hopefully
Yeah.
everybody has a little patience.
Not
So going
totally.
yeah, just knowing that we do, because we did work for a long, it was a really hard, like going through the applications, like we were in the right in the thick of the battle, like trying to figure out, it took a long time for us to kind of grasp what that was. And I'd be interested to hear Laura, your comments too on just that process, and that we did do a lot of work on this, and it's available as a resource, for all municipal, right, people working on this.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of I've had 3 questions, and that was one of them as well. Our work that we had put into the past 2 cycles, the first cycle that had all those really weird specific questions that again were aimed towards like 1 or 2 things, and there wasn't actually a question about them in the application, versus all of this that we took over multiple meetings to codify. So I'm glad that it's been brought up, and hopefully some of it can be useful in the future. But I know, this is a relatively new thing that we did, those of us who were on the commission previously. So this isn't super old.
Is everybody okay with Gideon adding a comment on this? Okay, I see nods. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I was curious, I think actually the 2022 version is the one that I was referring to, and there are several sessions taken,
This one?
meetings and sessions, yeah. 22. You had the,
22. I don't think
wasn't that the one that you had in the first place, or is this 2012?
this is 2012. This is the one, and maybe there's a 2022 version somewhere out there that's similar to this.
I think the commission wasn't functioning that year,
Yeah,
so
okay.
we came back 23, 24, and this is our third go around.
Okay. And then, Laura, when did you start on the commission?
I started at the same time John did.
So 2 years ago.
Just
Okay.
May 23.
Yep.
And then, so I'm asking a couple questions, just trying to figure things out. Arnella, are you work with the municipality and just grants, or the mayor's office, or?
Grants. So that's what I was going to point out. This, I'm super excited to see, the pair up with the version that you all created. This we adopted from the mayor's community grants review scoring, and that worked really well for us there. So it was just truly, as said in the email, a recommendation, but don't want to influence anything that was already working. So feel free to approach the scoring in this way. I don't know if that was going to be.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. I was just trying to get a feel from where things are coming from and what the history is there. Kind of putting all the parts together myself from my past observations at 2012, 2022, 21 circa. And currently, there's obviously been several iterations of the review package and what the criteria are. I know that I've actually participated in one during COVID, and it was completely different criteria.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think just kind of best practice would be to just essentially going forward, reviewing all the existing materials and kind of coming up with what you think is best. And because again, as you all point out, you put a lot of time into it. And if you apply that, I'm sure that the previous members put a lot of time into it. So I'm sure that in all instances, there's a great deal of thoughtfulness. So it's been involved. So that's all I.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I can add to, keeping in mind how the terms stagger and there's different ones come in. So when I hear codify, I hear code permanent. So I think it's meant to be static to get to to get the voices, the new members to add their voice into it with the expectation that with new members coming in after October this year. So for next year, there might be new voices that could be changed. And also it depends on administration's focus as well. So I think having this is a great starting point, and then maybe moving forward is just getting the new members to chime in on what, as you read through it and reading what the administration's criteria was that was put out there. How do you blend those two together?
If I could recommend to everyone here, just for the sake of time, because we are nearing our
Mhm.
PowerPoint here as well. And just the elephant in the room, I think, is that this process got started before we were regularly meeting again as a commission.
Yeah.
So we're really behind on
Right.
forward, and a lot of these are details we need to take care of in between grant cycles, not as we're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And my recommendation would be to just adopt what we did last year, because there are a lot of us here that created that. It was a very labor intensive process. It is general. I don't think any of us think it's perfect by any stretch. But I think that we could spend several meetings trying to come up with a criteria, or even merge these two together in a sensible way. And it might just make more sense, since we're down to next meeting, we need to have this ready, and we need to have the time to review it according to a criteria between now and then, which is only 2 weeks from now. So my recommendation would be to just adopt what we had going last year as an imperfect way forward, knowing that time is of the essence. And then keep in mind, as we are scoring, what needs to be amended on that, so that we can change it between now and the next cycle. So, because I think we could spend hours from this point forward and not necessarily move the rock very far.
Yeah.
So that would be, again, my recommendation if someone wants to make a motion as such.
No, I second that. Is there like, should we like have our ideas kind of mapped out, at least on a document, and then we have like a Dropbox to put them all in? That way if people are there, if they're not gonna be actually in body, at least it's already sort of composed.
Good question. So what we did in the past is we had it was like a Google Sheet. We could do it through Microsoft if we need to do that through the municipality. I'm not sure what the issue is with that or not, but we had a Google Sheet that everyone got, and then you would amend the name of it. You'd rename it to your name and a scoring sheet, and you'd fill in all of your data, and then it has a total at the beginning that totals it all up. And then all of that data was processed together into one presentation that we could review as a group. And we didn't necessarily go off of whether we thought an organization was eligible for funding. We just did raw scoring. And then we'd look at the graph of the scores, and there's usually a drop-off point at some place. Like, these organizations meet our criteria in general, and these less so. And then we divide the line as a group, decide where we want to draw the line, who's going to receive grants and who's not. And then we try and figure out how to proportion the grants appropriately with the funding that we had. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not that big of a process. It's probably a 30-minute discussion of where do we draw the line on who gets a grant and who doesn't based on the scoring criteria. And then how do we spread that around the groups in some kind of proportionate way based on the scoring. So.
Yeah, I see it through Chicago and Portland and stuff where I understand it. I just wanted to figure out how, wanted to make sure before we just jump off it, and then everyone's kind of cool is coming in for the next 2 weeks, myself included.
Right.
So, okay.
If you all share anything with me, I'm happy to put it in that Dropbox so that we have all of it in one place, but
Okay, sure.
you don't have
That'd
to
be
create a
perfect.
different Google Drive.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see. So was that a motion, Norman?
To adopt the scoring criteria from 2024.
Yes, I want to adopt the current one that you guys have. I just wanted to get that streamlined out since you were ahead in about 2 weeks. We got it.
It's just coming up quick.
Yep.
And we're running out of time.
100%.
Okay, so Norman moves to adopt the advisory scoring guidelines as presented by the chair. Is that okay, John? for a motion? I'm trying to do it's not really but-
You could just say adopt the 2024 scoring criteria for the 2025 grants or something along. Does that work okay for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Simple's better. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, I second.
You said you second that?
Yes. Okay.
All right, we've kind of been discussing it. Is there further discussion in favor? Norman, you get to speak first if you'd like to, since you made the motion. You don't have to, but you can. Okay, he's gonna pass. And any objections or any discussion otherwise? Okay, hearing none. Let's vote. I'm gonna start in the middle of the pack here. I'll start with Norman. The vote is to adopt the 2024 scoring criteria for our grant cycle.
Yes.
Right. Kim is out. She sent me an email saying she was going to be out. Tom Believus?
Yes.
Young? And Kim?
Me?
And Kim?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. Amanda?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So motion passes unanimously with 6 votes to adopt the 2024 scoring criteria for 2025. Okay. So we'll use that. I'll make sure that gets out to everybody. Between me and the staff, we'll work it out so that you get that in the next 24 hours. So you have that as a template to use as you're reviewing grants. So thank you.
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Laura.
so I was looking at the Excel sheet with the details on it, and with everything entered into Excel fields, it is almost impossible to read in an expeditious way. Is there any way that data by organization can be like
You can
formatted differently?
select the text box that it's in, and under the home tab, there's gonna be
No,
a right or a
I
wrap.
did that, and it's still really difficult to read.
If you go inside of the folders, the SharePoint, in each one of the organization's little folder, there's a submission PDF, and that has it all written out in text in a PDF. So
Okay,
I can,
thank you.
yeah, of course. So all of the information that's on the Excel or inside of the is the same as what's inside of those folders, and feel free to just look at the folders. We just transfer it to Excel for that scoring, but since you all are adopting the 2024 scoring, probably don't have to use that Excel sheet at all.
I'll make sure there's an updated sheet that has it like we did the previous year. It's pretty self-explanatory. Tabs at the bottom. I put the initials for the organization. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to do all of that. I'll get it done tonight.
And Chair, maybe we need to do a motion to extend another 5 minutes because we're over time just to finish.
Yes. Is there any objection to us extending? I think we're probably going to need 10
Yes.
to get what we need done. Any objection to extending to 7:15? Okay, seeing none, we'll continue to 7:15 and reevaluate. Okay, everybody clear on the deadline for scoring? Okay, and part of that might be moved one way or the other based on our next meeting and then what the needs are for getting the grant cycle done as well. So is there a absolute final, we need to have this done to coordinate with the other organizations so that our meeting can be informed by that? Do you have a date for that?
For the Beyond the Beige, so those 12 applications, if you all want to prioritize those, the goal is to meet with the mayor and ACDA the week of May 19th.
Okay.
So if there's a way to maybe slot those out first, that would be great. Versus the general applications, it's just you all as reviewers, and then it goes directly to the mayor. So there could be a same thing there.
Okay.
And again, like our hope is June to disperse the funds, but if it turns out it's a little bit later, as you said, that this is the learning year, and
Sure.
we have the future years be much more streamlined.
Thanks for understanding.
Yeah.
We presented this as we hope, but we understand.
Building the airplane in flight, as they say. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we move on from this topic? It's a lot of information, a lot of details. Want to make sure if anybody has questions after the meeting, feel free to email. We can't do business by email, but if it's just details on how do we do this or what's the deadline, that's completely acceptable. We're not going to interfere with Open Meetings Act to have details like that shared by email. Okay, hearing none, let's move on. I apologize, there's an extra public comment in there. We had a really good public comment earlier from Gideon. Thank you again. This is important. So under number 9 here, announcements and next meeting dates, the disclosure of economic interest form, which was attached to an email from Ornella. So you should have a copy of that by email. Definitely read through and fill that out. We fall under the board member section. We're not employees or elected officials, but board members. And then it covers any kind of entity that would be in contract with the municipality. So essentially anyone who would receive an arts grant would then fall in that category. So of any of the organizations that applied, if you have a special connection to them of any way, it's important to disclose that. It's a really important liability issue that we all have to have. It doesn't mean you can't vote or participate, but if you do have a strong connection with an organization, I would recommend abstaining from scoring that organization, or if you have several, it might be best to even sit out entirely. That's up to you to determine. But this is a good and very important form to have. We need to have this before our results are tallied. So take a moment, fill it out, turn it back in. I'll send you a reminder by email. That works. Everybody got that?
Before our next meeting on May 12th, needs to be kept.
Before we can tabulate results. So really earlier is even better. Because if somebody doesn't have it in, we can't necessarily use your scoring results, and that's going to change how we tabulate everything.
Yeah.
Okay, past that, this is important, and we missed this last time, so thank you all for understanding about this meeting being kind of unconventional on Monday. We had 2 that couldn't make it because of that. Actually 3, all 3 couldn't make it because of a Monday conflict, so. So for the next meeting, we tentatively have it slated for Tuesday, May 13th at 6 p.m. I know that John Eric Thompson reached out and said he is out of town that week. I don't know if there's anyone else that has a conflict or would need to move it. But it's best to have as many of us as possible, especially for scoring. It's important to have your voice in the discussion as we go forward. Any thoughts on May 13th at 6 p.m.?
That works for me.
Okay. All right, I see thumbs up. Yes, okay. All right, okay, so we'll plan on keeping that one May 13th. Let's discuss June and July. That may be a bit far out for everyone's schedule, so we can pencil those in and reevaluate in future meetings, but it's nice to have a point on the calendar for reference as we're building all of our schedules moving forward. Can we cross-reference those months with the assembly meetings?
Assembly meetings, yes. Now there's.
So for Tuesdays, because my understanding is Tuesdays work better than Mondays. There's a couple of people that have persistent Monday conflicts. It's not easy for me either. So Tuesdays work better. That would be the 10th or 17th of June to meet the 2nd or 3rd Tuesday.
That's good. The assemblies is the 6th and the 20th.
6/10, yeah.
That's in June. Oh, okay.
Oh,
They're
I
meeting
lied. I'm in May.
Friday.
Give me
No, yeah, 6th, 10th, and the 24th, I think.
Yeah, the 10th and the 24th.
So, okay, so they meet the 10th and 24th, so we should probably look at 17 for June.
Yeah.
Does that work for everyone? Okay. I'm seeing thumbs up. We can do informal straw polls on this. Doesn't have to be a business roll call. Let's look at July. What are the assembly dates in July?
1st and 15th.
1st and 15th. So we would be 8th, or if we needed later, the 22nd.
I guess I would say 8th.
Okay, we have a vote for the 8th.
Yep.
That works. 2 votes for the 8th, 3. Okay. Let's put it in as the 8th, and if we need to reevaluate, we can discuss that in future meetings. I'd love for us to look at least 3 months out like that and have an idea. And again, we can move things. That's easier to move and reschedule, but to not have any idea at all is that's tough going forward.
Good. Okay, I'll make that.
Okay. Any other announcements that I am missing? Can you think of anything, Marie or Nella?
No.
Amanda?
There are, yeah, as far as applications for new commissioners, there have been some community members that have reached out to me and have sent in their applications, but have not heard much back. So what should we be advising people who are looking to apply for open commissions?
Oh, great question. Yes, their application is active in the system indefinitely, but if the commission is filled, they won't really hear anything back unless there's a vacancy to fill, which is now just maybe due to resignations, or when terms expire in October. So we'll start with that process around September.
Do we have open seats right now?
Right now, no. Your commission is all filled, and there's 3 seats whose terms expired this year in October. So that's the only time vacancies will be considered. Otherwise, yeah, they won't hear unless there's a vacancy.
The
Yes.
3 expiring are
Yours,
Laura
Laura,
Walker's,
and John
mine,
Eric.
and John Eric Thompson. And those can be renewed.
Mhm,
So if
yep, if you're
commissioner wishes to
interested,
stay
yep.
on, they can renew.
Yeah,
And during the vacancy period, we're allowed, is it 120 days or 90 days?
120.
120 days to continue participation after the
Mhm.
expiration of a term without a reappointment.
Yeah, actually, it's
If-
180, I believe. Yeah, but then
180?
to
Oh, wow.
February, it takes you to February.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
longer than I thought.
Or maybe
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
Okay. All right, well, that's helpful.
maybe
I-
120. Yeah, the 100 is just like 6 months, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. So it's 120, 3
Yeah.
months. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4. You're
And
right,
that's mostly
February.
just to make sure the commission can still function while there's a new appointment being.
Correct.
Because it takes time to get it through the assembly and the discussion and the phone calls, and
Yes.
especially for newer members, you probably remember
Yeah.
talking to assembly members and whatnot, so. Okay, well, quickly here at the end, we have a couple of minutes left. Are there specific commissioner comments at the end of the meeting? This is something we've historically done just for a few moments to wrap up any lingering thoughts, ideas you have on the meeting or anything else related to what we talked about today. Essentially your form of public comment. I'll go down the list here. Let's go backwards order. So Amanda?
Sure. And this is always hard when I watch the clock and see that we don't have a lot of time. I'm one of those artists, right? The slow painter, the slow talker. But I, just as a 3rd generation Alaskan, I'm, very encouraged to see Gideon here in the room. That this is really a team effort, and I appreciate, having someone, a fellow with us. But the core of what we're trying to do, right, this art by Alaskans for Alaskans, supporting the Alaskan art, and specifically in Anchorage, it's continually on my mind how it's really hard to get support and community as an artist in Anchorage. And I have a really strong value to not have politics create divisions among artists. And so anything that, we can do as commissioners to really focus on just the joy of art making, outside of politics, the quality work, right, supporting that. I am a displaced arts teacher now with ASD. There's been about, as far as I know, last count, about 10 secondary arts teachers, music and visual arts, who are not offered positions in the arts next year. So all of that is really going to trickle into our municipality, right? Arts education, and then what kind of support for the arts is there. So I just have that view as an educator, that to really buffer art support from politics as much as possible. And I'm, just see our work here as a public board being able to be part of that. I wish the school district could do that more often too. But yeah, that's where we're at. And just to have that as any support you can give arts teachers who are looking at displacements and not being placed again is appreciated.
Thank you, Amanda. Kim?
I don't really have much to say, just I'm glad to be here.
Very good. Glad to have you
We're
here.
glad you're here.
Welcome. All right, thank you. Tamaulipas?
No comment, just keep on keeping on, everyone. I know like times are dire and it seems like everything's like an absolute, it's either this or that, but we can still take a break, and every day is just like one foot in front of the other. Progress doesn't always have to be something monumental. It could just be that one foot forward. So that's still progress. And yeah, I'm happy to be here as well.
Thank you. Norman?
No, it's great. Good conversation today. Just keep it rolling, stay laid back. So keep it jazzy. Thank you.
All right, Norman.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a good comment. Keep it jazzy. I like it. Okay, let's see. I'll skip me for now. Laura, do you have anything?
No, nothing from me.
Okay, thank you. All right, and for me, basically, similar thing to Amanda. I think that it's easy to look at an organization and see that it's a really valuable organization to our community, that it's supporting a really important cause, but it may or may not be related to the arts. And so I just say really divide your mind and your heart on these to make sure that we're really just looking for what is going to make the arts grow in our community, because that's our focus, and that's our function. And don't necessarily get swayed by it's a great organization, but it's just not really doing the arts. Just try to read through all that and make sure that we're trying to get we're stewards here of the funding for our municipality that we're recommending to our mayor, so that we can have those funds have maximum impact to promote arts in our community and to help raise up a new generation of artists and encourage those who are currently involved in the arts too. So that's a good kind of compass for me to look at, is how is this encouraging the arts on some level in our community. So it's an honor to be able to work with each and every one of you. I'm grateful for all the different backgrounds we represent here. And I'm looking forward to next week when we get to piece all this together and make our recommendations. So thank you for all the time you put into this in advance.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just real quickly, as you work through this, I'm excited to do it kind of in a more organized way this year with your input. So any thoughts you have from evaluating this year that could help us as we design next year, 2026 arts grants, please keep that in mind and just email me quickly your thoughts and comments, whether this would be a good criteria for next year, a focus that we can recommend, whatever feedback that comes up for you that can be improved, please let us know.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your support.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else on the agenda for the meeting, so we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Norman moves to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
Right. I don't think there's going to be any disagreement on that. We're going to call it adjourned here at 7:20. Thanks for a good meeting. It was quick. We ran a little long, and that's partly for the good information we got from Gideon. So thank you to everybody. And
I
have a good couple of weeks.
Question for you too. Yeah. Oh no, we can wait. Bye. Thank you all.
See you again on May 13th.
Bye. Yes,
Thank
May
you.
13th.
Peace out.
You guys have a lot of homework.